Thank you, friends. It's been wonderful to be here. And I bring greetings from India, particularly from our organization called EFICOR. I'll be talking more about what it is and what we do. And it's nice to be here and sharing about our own journey, as we live in a very different context, and it's very complex. And we are looking at various things that involved, and what is that we have learned in this diverse context, and how we take it further, helping the people. I am glad to be here with hearing to Dr. Melba in terms of giving dignity. It's not that what you want to give them, but what they want you to give. That talks about the dignity. Yeah. Very brief information about India. I'm sure that you all know about India, but we are about 1.2 billion people, little more than that. This is the 2011 census, and our literacy rate is about 74%. Still, when you go down to the different states, we have 29 different states in our country, and divided into different parts: the southern region, north region, northwest. I come from a southern part of the country, and our infant mortality rate, that means for every 1,000 live births, 46 children they die, before they see first birthday or so. And it is an average of India. When you go down to different pockets again, you would find as worse as 92 per every 1,000 live births. And in terms of human index context, index, we are 136 numbered out of 183. That's a small context about India. And who are we? We are part of an evangelical community in India, which was started years back in 1967 from an organization called Evangelical Fellowship of India. It's an umbrella of evangelical churches in India. In 1967, there was a huge famine in one of the states called Bihar, which is not part of the country. And this EFI, the leadership sat together and they wanted to respond to this famine. That's where the EFICOR was born, as an emergency wing of EFI. As years goes by, EFICOR has started, big and then involving in so many other interventions, and EFI felt that it is better to have a separate identity for EFICOR. So 1980, we were registered as a separate society under the National Societies Registration Act as an NGO. We have a vision, a just, responsible, and a compassionate society. That's what we wanted to see that's happening in our communities. We take a threefold mission with us. One is we look at issues of our nation and bringing sensitivity so that God's concern to be addressed, and to be partnered with the local church in addressing his concerns, and to facilitate communities towards a holistic transformation. The three things we know: we work at the policy level, we work with the local church, and we work at the grassroots with the communities. This is about our work, and we have been implementing so many projects in so many states. Yeah, now the Indian context, it's a very typical context, different context, and we have 5,700 kilometers of coastal line, and 40 million hectares of land is flood prone, and 68% of net sown area is drought prone, spreading over 116 districts. We have more than 650 districts in 29 states. And sub-Himalayan or West Ghats are landslide zone. You have different kind of disasters. I'll come to that. This is the context of India, where we have a diverse, climatic zone, diverse environment in different parts of the states. Yes, I'm sure that you might have heard about the Himalayan tsunami that struck a couple of months back. I'm not talking about the tsunami in 2004, the tsunami of June 2013. About 7 p.m. on June 16th, 2013, Raman heard the loudest crack in 45 years of his life. It was the deafening roar of a disaster. I felt as if the sky had been torn asunder. Within seconds, a massive wall of water gushed towards the Kedarnath temple. A huge boulders flung into the sky like an explosion. In less than 15 minutes, thousands of people were swept away. This is eyewitnessed by a person who was lying in a hospital bed and giving interviews. Friends, this has happened just before our hands are still wet. We haven't completed the work there. And you can see, so many things. Thousands of people and thousands of houses being damaged. Kedarnath is one of the famous temples in India, in the north part of the country, which is very close to Delhi, where I live. It's about 300 kilometers away from Delhi, and pilgrims comes from all over the country. It's very famous pilgrimage center, and it's hit by the devastation. So people worship, the God, and while we are involving in relief operations, very interestingly, we heard the statements saying that this God has ditched them, by bringing this devastation. And they wanted to know who is true God. That's the greatest opportunity, isn't it? But friends, that was not an opportunity for us to share the gospel. That was an opportunity to show, demonstrate the love of Christ. Then, we take it further, how to build the God's kingdom there. Disasters, the risk is increasing in every passing day. Poverty, rapid urbanization, climate change, these and other factors, are leaving people and the communities ever more exposed. Madam has mentioned about the climate change. We do see that a lot of negative impacts that are happening in our country and resulting in thousands of people, millions of people are homeless. People are kind of restless in their own, lifestyle because of these disasters. When you look at the global trend, we see that there are more than 200 worst disasters hit the world in the recent past. And the lives lost around 1.4 million, 90% due to floods and windstorms. Philippines is part of it, and we have witnessed so many disasters. When you look at a global, annual economic loss, this is statistics that I've taken from NIDM, that's a National Institute of Disaster Management in India, and also UN report. It quotes that 1960, we have lost around $75.5 billion. And in 70s, it increased to $138.4 billion. And in 80s, it increased to $213.9. And you see that the way it has been increasing, every decade. And now, 2000, they say that $2.5 trillion we lost due to various disasters. In Asian scenario, we have witnessed more than 6,185 disasters between 1994 to 2013, of which 1,200 in South Asia and 1,500 in East Asia and Pacific. The 2004 tsunami, which has reminded us to have early warning systems and a regional focus on needs for cooperation in disaster response, because it was hit 13 countries. Then the SARC initiated something called the regional cooperation or coordination. This is a kind of a scenario where we come from. Of course, India, we are witnessing every kind of disaster. You name it, it is there. Whether it is a cyclone, whether it is a cloudburst, or whether it is a climatic disasters like drought. We find all sort of disasters in our country. It's a very complex situation, and we are about less than 3% Christians in our country. Our country is mostly Hindu. It's about 80 to 85% of Hindus we see, and about nearly 10% the Muslims are coming up, and then officially we are 3%, but if you go unofficially, we are about 10%, because we have a caste-based society. Particular caste in our country they have to have a Hindu, tag. If they don't have a Hindu tag, they would not qualify to have reservations. They would not qualify to have a certain entitlement from the constitutional, base. So therefore, people, it's very fearful to, tell the society that they are Christians. If they are telling me, they are losing a lot of entitlements. But the people who come across say that we don't mind about this entitlement. We worship the living God. He gives us entitlements. So there are the communities like that. So therefore, unofficially, we say that we are about 10% or so. So when you look at our Indian scenario, hazard vulnerability, we face about 57% of our land is prone to disasters, the earthquakes. 16% of the land is drought prone, and 12% is flood prone, and 8% is cyclone, and another 3% is the landslides. So these are kind of a scenario in India. And looking at the various disasters that we, FECOR, addressed, I just recorded some of them here since 1980 to 2013. A number of disasters, huge devastation, and thousands of people are affected. Even I speak here, our team in Bihar, this is Bihar, very close to Nepal, and whether we have rains or not, if rains happens in Nepal, there is water and it floods in North Bihar. So right now the team is responding to a disaster in Bihar, which was happened just last week. About 200 people died because of the floods. So we witnessed so many disasters. When you look at the facts, definitely loss of life higher in developing countries, because huge population and lack of coping strategies, mechanisms, and economic loss higher in terms of developed countries. Significant increase in number and losses, and the fact of the matter is that the women and the children face the brunt of these disasters. They have less coping mechanisms. Men go mostly to the out of the village, or they migrate to different places, leaving women and children at home. Hardly know about the disaster, hardly know about the preparedness measures they would suffer. So, what is the church response? The Bible says that he who mocks the poor shows contempt for their maker. Whoever gloats over disaster will go unpunished. Therefore we cannot escape. Whether it is a man-made, whether it is a God punishing, there is something that we cannot escape, from responding to the communities. So we have a strategy. In this complex situation, we develop a framework, FECOR, which is a leading evangelical organization in India. We develop a framework bringing churches together and responding to the disaster. Though we are kind of a minority in terms of the population, but we make the most effective works at the community. That's what the government also says. So we develop a strategy for training providers. What we do is that we select certain churches, those who are evangelical in mind, able to understand the word of God as it is. And we bring them together for a discussion, for a brainstorming. And from there, we take them further, building their capacities on various issues, including disaster management and ERR. And whenever there's a disaster, we bring all these churches together in that area and form them into relief coordination committee. It's not FECOR alone responding to the disaster. We want to bring the church into the whole aspect so that it's a response from the Christian community. Therefore, the committee has been formed, and the committee would make important decisions in terms of the beneficiaries, in terms of the what they require. Ma'am has mentioned that people generally don't go and ask. So, ma'am, we have a set of formats to follow. Our relief kits is varies from areas to area. 2010 we were involved in a Leh. It's Ladakh in Jammu and Kashmir, where when we thought something to give them, but let us go and ask them what they want. When we went and asked them, they said they want one a dress which they wear during the winter, which is a long kind of a kurta, and that was the need of them. The women mentioned that we want that one. We don't want this towel, lungi, things like that. So therefore, there is an important a place for the church to involve in needs assessment and finding out what the community exactly required after the disaster. And church do provide logistic support. This all kind of starts from the relationship building and the capacity building. And church involves in follow-up. The many people, the poor people who don't have voice to rise, for their own compensation, even though it is their right to get the compensation, but they are voiceless, because of the corruption, cases like that. Now we motivate the church to empower them and ask for the compensation of the people, those who lost their lives or livelihoods, and advocacy. So these are the recent disaster in Uttarakhand. We have thank God that the churches come together and they were directing the entire relief operations, how to go about it. Training and capacity building, we take a lot of people, especially the young people, building them as a cadre on church basis, so that whenever there's a disaster strike, people will be there to respond, and we don't have to look for the people or volunteers. And we follow certain modules. When we do the training of the disaster management, we start from the biblical basis on disasters, whether it is right time to involve in disaster or not, whether it is a Christian responsibility to respond or not, things like that, emergency response and management, disaster management, including DRR, and also particularly SPEAR standards. That's something very important to know. And we found that many people, for the sake of involving, what they do is that, they would come with maybe 5 kilo, 10 kilo rice, and ask the people to come over to maybe 10 kilometers or 5 kilometers from the village. But SPEAR standard doesn't say that. You have to go to the community where they are, where the people are staying. And you have to follow certain standards in providing food and non-food materials. Therefore, the church was not aware of it. So we took the responsibility to empower the church to understand the SPEAR standards, or for that matter, have benchmarks, so that the church is fully equipped, to respond not only on the basis of the need, but on the basis of dignity, what they required. Church being involved in distributing relief materials, to the affected families. This is one of the places in south part of the country where they had Thane. There's one cyclone hit in December 2012, and there the Brethren Church is actively involved. The church building being used as warehouse and providing family kits. We don't dump on things like that. It's basically the kits prepared in a local church premises, and each family would give it a separate kit of items that are there. I'm sure that you all will be doing the same. And local church plays a very crucial role in finalizing the beneficial list. Certain times the government misses some families, or whoever the local government officer, they miss certain families. So we urge the church once again to re-verify the list of the beneficiaries, so that nobody will miss from getting the response. Yeah. And there's something very interesting one. I will be speaking more on this tomorrow's my workshop on holistic response. Please rest yourself. This is something very unique. With the support of TFN UK, we did a district level disaster management plan, involving the local church. This is a constitutional right to have a district level plan for all 650 districts in India. The Parliament has passed the bill in 2005, which is called DM Act, Disaster Management Act 2005. And the Act allows the district government to form a district disaster management plan, so that the people are very much aware, very much prepared, in order to reduce the risk. So this is something EFICOD has initiated with the support of TFN UK in a state called Bihar. We just completed one district, and the plan was launched by the government officials in the state capital of Bihar. And we are also involving in 4 more districts which are more vulnerable to various disasters. So this is something very unique where the church was part of it. Church is kind of a long-standing constituency there. The bureaucracy people will come and go. EFICOD or like organizations will be there for some time, but the church is there forever. So therefore we want the church to be involved in a holistic manner, so that these kind of issues can be taken further to the ground zero and people can highly benefit. Yes, how to help local church to engage. That's the kind of our experience. We say that enabling the local church to recognize the wider context. They are there, forever. And as yesterday Bishop was telling about not merely concerned about the dirty souls, but they should also concern about the body. When Jesus said, "Come and follow me, I'll make you fishers of men," he never said that I'll make you fishers of souls. The men is inclusive of soul and body. So therefore, you cannot touch the soul without touching the body, scientifically. So therefore, we want to build or enlarge the church in terms of their wider context. And building good relationship, that's very important for us to use the church premises. The church has got huge property in certain part of the country. It's good to build the relationships and strengthen local churches' mandate to show compassion. That's something very unique, very important. When you see the people, those who are in need, the Bible says that if you don't care for them, it's kind of useless when you say that you come and worship me. We all know that John chapter 1 verse 16, isn't it? John chapter 3 verse 16. God so loved the world. But we never remember 1 John chapter 3 verse 16 or 17, where it talks about sharing what we have with your brethren. It's very unique. We build up the church to show compassion. Of course, the leadership development, the church has different committees, different wings. We don't want to give them more burden, but we want to motivate them to have a committee on social concern, committee on compassion ministry, so that the church is engaged continuously. Building links and networks. We having a network with the government at the national level, networks with the government at the state level. We wanted to add value into these networks by bringing local churches, so that the churches are very well aware about the issues of advocacy and very well aware about the government units. At the end, this is my last slide. We can have so many acronyms for the church. We said that C stands for care for the victims, and the H stands for handle trauma counseling. That is, we found that very needy area, where the people stuck, they want somebody to go and then hear their cry, and that is a very important one. That the church can take it up and unleash a volunteer labor force. The church can create a cadre of volunteers, which can be very useful during the disasters. Remove vulnerability by following DRR. A very important aspect. Tomorrow I'll be talking about DRR in my workshop. And the champion of awareness creation, not necessarily in terms of the evangelism, but also we are looking at various other issues like issues of injustice and issues related to disasters, and help with the medicines in emergencies, though most of the churches are not equipped with this kind of basic medicines. So we wanted to bring in this kind of aspect so that contextually in these complexities, the church can able to play a very important role. Thank you very much.